Hey geeks, this is Jeff Opolka from New Smyrna Beach, Florida. When I'm not getting the kids amped up with my Mickey and Donald impressions. Hey Donald, are you excited? Or taking a weekend trip to a Disney park, or going on a Disney cruise, or just wandering Disney Springs, well, I'm sad. But I can eliminate my blues by listening to Kurt and the gang on Geekin' on Walt Disney World.
Hey Disney World geeks, Curtis Stone here, and welcome to episode 439 of the Geekin' on Walt Disney World podcast. This week, John Schepps shares his big family Disney World trip with 16 people in a split stay at Universal, Kidani, and Old Key West. And I've been having fun chatting with Disney World fans like John for over 7 years, getting close to 8 years, and started the podcast with my daughter Lindsay talking about our Disney World trips. And then we brought on you guys, you Disney geeks, to tell your trip stories. And our listeners are so positive, caring, and generous. And we encourage a family atmosphere on the podcast. Before too long, they were calling me the Podfather. And I continue to bring on you listeners to tell your Disney World stories. We would love you to join our Geekin' family. We've got an amazing private discussion group in Facebook. Look for Geekin' on WDW Family. It's a group out there on Facebook, and I'll ask you a few questions, and then after you answer those, you'll be able to ask your questions in the group, share your trip pictures, and just engage and have fun with one of the best Disney World groups out there on the internet. We're independent Disney authorized travel agents with Fairy Tale Concierge. Fairy Tale Concierge is an authorized Disney Platinum vacation travel agency, and whether you're new to Disney World or you're a big fan of the show, a lot of our clients come in because they love listening and getting tips from the show, and they enjoy booking their rooms, the packages, all those dining reservations with Margita, my wife. We call her Mama, and you got Auntie Judy that helps out too, and they'd love to talk to you about your next Disney World trip. Just email them, travelandtiaras@gmail.com, and you don't have to write that down right now. If you look in the show notes of the podcast app that you're using to listen to the podcast, all the details are there with the Travel and Tiara's email, and also my email is out there. Now, I've got a backlog of recordings. This one is coming to you from, I think during that Christmas break, I recorded this with John. John had been wanting to be on the show for quite some time, and he helped me out during the year with our fantasy football league that we started with the geeks. We had like 10 of our Disney World listeners and geeks on a fantasy football. We had a great time doing fantasy football this past year. John helped me out with that, along with another friend of mine, Joe. But I was also on John's podcast early last year. His podcast and YouTube channel is Toilets to Titles. You can check the show notes to get a link to John's content. Experts at fantasy football, but he also is a big fan of Disney World, and he did a Disney trip. It was a big one with a big family of 16 people. I think even one day they had 18 people on this trip. John did all of the planning. He's got a 7 and a 10-year-old child. Did some time at Universal and also the Kidani Animal Kingdom Lodge area, Old Key West, Portofino Bay at Universal. And some food, Sanaa Breakfast, the Regal Eagle, Boma, Skipper Canteen, San Angel Inn. He's going to give you more of those Genie Plus experiences that all of our guests on the podcast have been doing recently, some tips, and then, special moments with the family. Well, this is a bonus Thursday release. I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to get all these caught up so I can start bringing you the Grand Geekin' Gathering roundtables that I've recorded one already. I got more planned this week and into next week. Yeah, so like I said, John is a fantasy football podcaster and YouTuber. Well, football season is over. Congratulations to the Rams for winning the Super Bowl. You know what that means. It's time to take our Geekin' family to Disney World. But here I am, 6:30 in the morning, doing a trip report on a holiday week for me. And I'm excited. This poor fella, he's been trying to get a trip report with me for, I don't know, a long time. Seems like we've been talking all year long. But please give a warm Geekin' family welcome to John Schepps.
Hey, geeks, what's happening? I'm happy to be here.
Johnny. How you doing? Do you like Johnny or John?
John's fine. Johnny, John, it really doesn't matter. I'll accept either.
I was looking at your notes that you sent me, which are outstanding. And how was your Christmas?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. The kids are still young, so the magic is still there. And we went to, Disney for Christmas, so that always kind of makes it a lot more enjoyable. How about you?
Yeah, it was fantastic. My kids aren't little, but I still had a good time seeing them all. It's always special to have them all together for Christmas. And how old are your kids and how many you got?
I got 2. So my oldest is 10 and my youngest is 7. And my oldest, he got a giant Lego, a Daily Bugle. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's actually in my corner over here. This thing is ginormous. We set out. So we had everybody over. Christmas morning, we usually do a brunch. And we had about the same amount of people in my house as we had on this Disney trip. Wow. So I'll get to that later on. This Disney trip just kept growing and growing. But everybody was over, so we set up a bunch of tables. And the cool thing about that is we kept one of these extra tables up so my son could build all the Legos he's got. And this Daily Bugle took him about 5 days, and it's rather large.
I got one myself. My son Ben gave me one. It's Boba Fett, so I'm excited. Once it's done, it's going to be sitting in here. I enjoy those too. I haven't done one in a long time. I know it's a really popular thing, obviously. Now, when did you go to Disney World?
We went December 5th through the 12th. So we actually, we went to Universal for 2 or 3 days. We usually do like a quick, small trip to Universal, and then we'll go to Disney for the long trip. That's kind of where we kind of relax, and it's I know that sounds kind of crazy because Disney trip is go, 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 but I settle in when I'm there. So it's the 5th through the 12th.
Outstanding. And who went on this trip?
So the initial trip, so every year we go, me and my wife, my kids, and we usually go with our friends, and there's about 4 of them. They have 2 daughters. And one of the daughters is 1 year older than my oldest, and one is 2 years older. And like I said, we go every year. So that was the original. And we were originally planning, so we're DVC, and we were planning to go to, it was my first, so last year was my first year booking DVC. I guess, the 11th month window, I didn't know how huge that was. So you can't book at any other resort until the 6-month window. So I figured, all right, we want to go in December. 7-month window. So we want to go in December. I want to try somewhere different than the Riviera. I kind of wanted to stay at the Boardwalk or the Beach Club because we really like being in that Epcot area and like being able to walk around and walk in. Over time, Epcot has become one of our favorite parks. It's funny how it kind of changes every trip, but I'm really, starting to enjoy Epcot. And I was like, all right, I'll just nail it at 7 months. I won't even book 11 months out of Riviera. I'll nail it. So at 7 months, I tried booking it and nothing was available. And I had to kind of piece things. So at the 7-month window, nothing was available. And we kind of had to piece things together. And, there were some resorts we wanted to stay at, some we didn't. And I really liked the Kidani Village. We had actually stayed there once before. We did a split stay, Kidani Village and Bay Lake Tower. And I really love the pool and the water play area. I'll get into that. So we got 3 nights at Kidani and 3 nights at Key West. And then eventually I was able to get another night at Kidani until eventually I got them all. And then they were able to piece them all together for me. So I was searching every day, which I don't mind because you'll also hear later in the show, I enjoy the build up to the trip, So I was on the Disney Vacation Club website. So originally it was just, I'll say, we finally got a resort. And then my wife's mother, she tends to come with us. She's got timeshares and she likes to go on vacations and she's a lot of fun. So she was like, you know what, I'm going to come. And then my wife's sister was like, oh, I'll come and I'll stay with, Grandma Sue. That's my wife's mother's name. And so now that's her husband, and they have a 1.5-year-old daughter. It was a lot of fun. So she was there. So that was an additional 5. So now we're up to 13. Then my parents, and then my sister. So that's 16. And then about a week before the trip, week to 2 weeks, my wife's aunt lives in Florida. So her grandmother was going to go down there to visit her aunt. So now we got 2 additional people for one day. So it was 16 for the entire trip. But one of our days at Magic Kingdom, we were up to 18.
Wow. That's quite a crowd. So we'll have to find out how you managed all of those. I like going with a big group, but yeah, it's hard to stick together when there's that many people too.
Yeah, and I was the manager for sure, and everybody knows that. So it was tough, but I figured it out.
Well, I like to take a look at 3 fun Disney World facts about our listeners that come on, and one you said you love that time leading up. You like the planning aspect of it, John? Yeah,
I do, and also so we kind of met, I listened to your podcast. I've been listening for a long time, and I host a fantasy football on it. So one thing I say about football is I really enjoy the off season, because the off season is full of hope. You know what I mean? Like the in season, you have to deal with the realities of, like players get hurt and your team might stink and things don't work out. So I like the optimism. And I'm not saying that there's that at Disney, but I still like the off season of Disney, because when I know I'm going, like listening to your podcast is a lot, like I enjoy it. So I put your podcast on when I'm working, and sometimes I'm barely listening to what's being said, but I'm in my office alone and I just like the background noise, and I throw it on. So I'm listening to all these trip reports and I pick things up, and it's a lot more enjoyable when you got a trip, coming up. So, and I also like the planning. I like looking for new tips, and I do enjoy that time a lot.
Do you put together a list of must-dos?
So I'll put together like a list of must-dos, but it's hard to find things now, after going for like 8 or 9 years, that there are new things. But generally, like what I like to do is I like to put together like a small list. I'll put together like an itinerary, like a sample itinerary, or I'll put this, like on this trip, I put together 2 for our Universal side, because I'll tell this story in a bit. We surprised our friends with the trip to Universal. They had never been. I like to throw together like some sample itineraries. We could do this way, or we could do this way. And then throughout there, like, things that I haven't done yet, I'll throw in there and I'll try to highlight. And so there's a little bit of that going on for sure.
I like when you said like that hope before you go. You do have this great hope of everything just going perfectly. But in reality, when I land in Orlando, the reality kind of sets in a little bit. I got to take a step back and say, yep, I might run into some rude people. There could be some diversions. There could be a problem getting to the resort. Who knows what? And you just got to kind of, all right, let's take this as it comes now that we're here.
Right. Yeah, man. And this year, for anybody who's traveled this year, it was a little different at Disney. Yeah, there were a few different experiences. I feel like I went last year, in the peak of last November, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a bad experience. I enjoyed it. But this year it seemed, there were a few things I experienced that I hadn't in the past, for sure.
All right. And Tokyo Disneyland is your trip that you want to do? It's like a bucket list item? Oh,
yeah. So I'm speaking it into existence right now. So I'm 34, and I've been telling my wife for like the past 2 years that for my 40th, we are heading out there 100%. So I got sick a few years back with ulcerative colitis, and I was I had about 3 surgeries I need to get to correct my stomach. And while I was in the hospital, one of the things that got me through, or one of the things I enjoyed, was I would watch walkthroughs of different Disney parks, all around the world. And it really piqued my interest. I love it here. I love, the Orlando, like Disney World. but seeing Disneyland Paris and Shanghai and Tokyo, it's piqued my interest, and I want to go over there. So I'm 100% going over to Disneyland, Tokyo Disneyland, Disney Sea in about 6 years. I have to.
That's a great idea. I bet you will speak it into existence. Start saving a little bit right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And that, you already said this, that you're the glue that holds the Disney tribe of yours together, and you did have a tribe. So were you the leader and everyone followed you? And how did you work this big group both at Universal and Disney?
So the being the glue that holds my Disney tribe together. So it's even like in the off season, right? In the build up, kind of, we have a little chat, and we talk about regular things in there, but I'm constantly throwing different things I see from Disney, refurbishments or things opening up, things closing, or kind of news or tips. So I'm constantly throwing Disney stuff out there so people don't forget. So that we know that, like, we got to plan the next one, and then finally we get to pick a date, and we get so while we're away, I'm the glue that kind of keeps it together. But then while we're also away and while we're there, how I did it. So this is kind of a tip I'm going to discuss a little later on. But before we went, some of us stayed off site, and I made sure we were linked. Everybody was linked through my Disney experience. Right. That way, I could plan everything, because there are a few other people who are planners, but I wanted to make sure that, because everyone's going to kind of want to do everything that everybody's doing, and there are some situations we didn't plan this from the jump. So we had dining, you know what I mean? We had dining for 8, and then I tried to add 4. It's a lot easier adding 2 or 3 to 8 than it is adding 8 to 8. You know what I mean? Especially around this time, there were a lot of people there. It was pretty busy. So the main thing was getting everybody linked so that while we were in the park, we could ride things together, and we could kind of have a set path. So it wasn't chaos. So
you did keep all together most of the time.
Yeah, surprisingly we did. And there's a few, there was a magical moment with Rise of the Resistance, being able to get everybody on, because with Genie Plus, if you're not staying on property, so even though I could make reservations for everybody, those who weren't on property, I couldn't, so at 7 a.m., I could get up, everybody who's on property, I could make our first reservation, but those who weren't, I couldn't make theirs until 9. So it affected kind of the first plan, of the days we used that stuff. But then throughout the day after that, we were all set. We were on the same path. And then also, as far as dining went, I was able to add people, kind of, it all worked out.
That's pretty complicated though, because of the on property, off property situation. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into this report. The resorts. How many, was it split stay? How did we end up?
So I didn't put too much on here about the Universal stay, but I can discuss it because it's up here. It's in the memory, but it was a split stay in a sense. We stayed at the Portofino Bay Hotel, and we were there for 3 nights. Like usually we do 2 nights. And when you stay on property at Universal at one of the 3 resorts, your room key gets you to the front of the line. It's the express pass all day. Right. So we can crush, like we'll go there on a mission. We go there, stay a night, go, and then we'll go to both parks because they're right next to each other, and we will do everything. Well, my kids, like, they've been doing this since they were like 4 or 5. We'll get everything done, and then boom, switch over to Disney, and we really go in. We had been talking about this for a while. My kids didn't know either. So everyone thought we were going for 9 days to Disney, and we set this thing up where we were going to stop at Universal for 3 nights. And we came up with this whole story. So I sell Disney travel as well. And I set up this story that I had to go to a convention the day I arrived. And my wife and the kids, so then we also had to come up with a story because the wife, her name's Kim, she was like, all right, well, so I told them they had to pick me up from the convention. And she was like, well, why can't we just go to the pool? And then Judah, you go pick up John. And I was like, oh, you can't use the pool because of COVID. They don't want you coming in till 4:00. So, because they live in Florida, they live in Destin. So they were driving up from Destin. So they usually like to get there early. So I had to like hold her off. So we got to the hotel at like 4, and they thought they were just picking me up. Wow. So they pull into the Portofino. And I told them, come in, I want to show you the tree. And my kids also didn't know that they were going to be meeting there and staying with us, because usually we go without them. So they pulled up. I got the kids out. I got Kim out, and she walked in. And as she walked in, my kids walked out. And then that's when everybody realized, like, what's going on here? Oh, we're all staying here. So wow. We all stayed at the Portofino together, and it was a lot of fun. And then we transferred over to the Kidani village.
Really cool. How come you like to do Universal, John?
So the funny thing is, I kind of grew up on Universal. Okay. I became a Disney fan as an adult. My first time Disneyland was we went on our honeymoon to California, to Carlsbad. And we were like, oh, my son was only about a year and a half, and Anaheim was about an hour away. So we decided we'd go up there, and we went up there. And as soon as we went into the park, it was like rope drop. And they had all like the characters out, and there was a big parade, and my son was just glowing, and we kind of fell in love. And from then on, it was Disney. But starting from when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, that was about the time Islands of Adventure opened up, which is the second park at Universal. My birthday's in the summer, in July. And we would go every summer from 7th grade to my senior year. And so Universal's got a place in my heart as well. And, you know, there's just so I don't know if I can necessarily say it in words what the difference is, but like Disney is kind of, it's where I relax and I can be a kid, you know, like I love that part of Disney. Like I really enjoy that, but Universal, there's something else I get out of it. You know, it's not the same thing. It's like, but so they both, you know, are big pieces of things I enjoy, I guess.
Awesome. And yeah, how about the resort? What did you think of that resort? Would you recommend it?
Oh yeah. So we've, you know, we used to stay at the Portofino all the time. I've stayed at the Hard Rock, which is another one of the 3 resorts there. And I stayed at the Royal Pacific, but the Portofino, it's beautiful. First thing, the rooms are very nice. I like the way it's set up. They have, you know, a bunch of dining on the first floor, a decent buffet, and they have a boat that you can ride that comes like every 10 minutes. And it's like a 5-minute ride to the parks. So it's convenient and it's very nice.
And were you able to get everything done? How are the crowds?
So we were definitely able to get everything done. So I had never been on, they have a new ride there. Well, 2. One's called the Velocicoaster, right, and one's Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, which isn't as new, but I had never been able to do it before. Last year when we went, the virtual queue was kind of closed. I couldn't get on the line. So we went into the park early, and we were able to get everything done. The only hang up is they have lockers everywhere, and we're like a backpack crew. We kind of like to we order groceries when we're on site. We order waters, and, you know, I'll throw waters in my backpack. I'll throw some sandwiches, and we're constantly, you know, I'll put my lanyards if we're not wearing them in my backpack, ponchos. And it's a pain because a lot of the big rides there, you got to throw all your stuff in lockers. And when it's a little busy, you know, navigating into these locker systems is a little tough. But we started very early, and our plan was to go to, so the 2 parks are Universal and Islands of Adventure. And our plan was to do Hogwarts at night, because the kids are, you know, my wife's friends. So Kim and Judah, they're 2 kids, Stella and Luna, big Harry Potter fans. They had never been there. And that was the itineraries I drew up. I gave them options, and they're like, all right, let's see it at night. We got to the park. I think we got up early enough, and Universal didn't open until 9, but Islands of Adventure was early at 8. So I told everybody we got to be at Universal at 8, even though it wasn't open, thinking that they wouldn't be up in time. And I was wrong. Everybody was up. We got there early, so we had to kind of call an audible and shift, and we ended up going to Islands of Adventure anyway, and we went right to Hogwarts, and we went right to Hagrid. So that was probably the longest line, because you can't use the Express Pass for that. So you can't use the Express Pass for Hagrid's or Velocicoaster, but everything else we were able to use it. We waited 40 minutes for Hagrid's, and it was incredible. That ride was absolutely incredible. And then after that, everything, boom, 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 we did everything. And then that night, so we finished Islands of Adventure. We went over to Universal, and then a lot of the team went back, and then the extreme team stayed. So the extreme team was going on the Velocicoaster. That's me. It was Judah. It was my daughter Dylan, who's 7, and Stella, who's 13. We went on the Velocicoaster. So we went back into Islands of Adventure, and it was very intense. My daughter's a big roller coaster girl, but at 7 she got off of that and she didn't speak for like 2 minutes. She was shocked. She's like, no more. I'm not doing that again. So it was fun.
I know. I'm actually editing a recording I did with the unofficial guide author for Universal Florida. So everything you're saying, you're just like putting on top of what he told me about Universal. So I got a whole episode that's up. As we're talking now, it's already out in my feed. So if you want to hear all the technical details of Universal, yeah, it's perfect. Good stuff. And yes, because he's talked about those two being the best rides. So it's funny that you picked them right out, no doubt.
Hagrid's, I wasn't expecting. There were a few things that happened in it that I wasn't expecting. So I had heard there was some things like that. So I didn't want to watch any ride throughs. I didn't want to read anything on it. So I suggest if you haven't been on Hagrid's, just ignore everybody until you ride it. And it was a lot of fun.
And you did you did it the right way. The tips, you did the stay at the resort to get the express pass, and you rope dropped the rides that you had to rope drop. You did it perfectly. So, and you did what, 3 days, did you say?
So we did 2 days at the park. We did 3 nights, 2 days at the park. Usually, like I said, we do the 1 day at the park. We crush everything. But because we had the additional family, I wanted to be able to do everything twice. Yeah. And there's a ride there called Men in Black that is kind of like Buzz Lightyear meets Toy Story Midway Mania, but it's more of a ride as well. And it's like you're shooting aliens, and I love it. So I wanted to be able to do that. Like as a kid with the Express Pass, we would just go on that over and over and over again. It was like a video game, and we were competing against each other for score. So I wanted to be able to, we had never had a trip with my kids where we were able to do everything. And then I wanted to have that experience back at the hotel that night and be like, that was great. We had a lot of fun. Now, what do you want to do tomorrow? And then just ride whatever they wanted over and over again. So adding the extra day at the parks was awesome.
Yeah. And you went to both parks each day. So you didn't just like work one park one day and one. Okay. Very cool. You got a lot done. All right. And let's go over to where'd you end up staying? The Kidani?
Yes. Yeah. We stayed at the Kidani Village.
So the whole time at Disney was Kidani, right? You finally
I learned something. I didn't know that. And it's funny because I do Disney travel as well. I thought that there were 3 resorts at the Animal Kingdom, and I kind of feel like a fool. I thought there was Kidani Village, I thought there was Jambo House, and then I thought there was the Lodge. So I'm telling you, for the longest time, I thought there were 3.
That's interesting. And, I can see how you could get that confused.
And then we checked in and we went outside on the savannah. We're looking at the animals, and across the way is the Jambo House. And my parents were staying at the Jambo House, so I thought it was like another DVC property. And because I think there's rooms in the Jambo House that you could book with points. So I guess long story short, over time I realized that no, that's the main lodge, and that's we're in the other lodge. So there's 2.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure where Jambo House starts and where the lodge ends, or where the DVC is. Usually, they're quite distinguishable. I'm sure they are. I don't even know. Yeah. I stayed there on points at the Jambo House, and like still way down a hallway. Like there's long hallways from the lodge. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, excellent. Well, first time staying there, I'm sure. Then, right?
So this was actually my second time staying at the Kidani Village. Okay. We had stayed there, I want to say like 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, for about 2 or 3 nights. We did a split stay. So we were originally going to stay at the Bay Lake Tower that trip. And then we had a family member who wanted to join, and we couldn't afford the Bay Lake Tower. To add the additional person, we would need a 2-bedroom. So going from a 1-bedroom to 2-bedroom, we couldn't afford it for the whole trip. So Kidani Village was a little cheaper for a 2-bedroom, but so we were able to compromise. We did Kidani for the half a stay, and Bay Lake Tower for the other half. But when we went to Kidani Village, I had stayed at the Jumbo House prior, and the pool was all right. I like the Animal Kingdom. I like the Jumbo House. I love the lobby, but I'm a big pool guy, and my kids love the pool. And when I went to Kidani Village, I was so impressed with theirs. I like their setup. I like their slide. I like the play area. I like how it's spaced out, and it just looks like an area where you can have a lot of fun. It's not like a lot of the resorts on property. The kids' play area, it's usually like a tower. Like it's a small area, tower, everything kind of goes straight up. And this one's a lot more laid out. It's like a big area. So I was like, we need to come back here. So this was the trip where we stayed here, and we stayed here for the entire time.
Did you have a 2-bedroom?
Yes. So we stayed in the 2-bedroom, and we've been doing that since our first DVC trip, which was last year at the Riviera. So Riviera, we did a 2-bedroom, and then this year at the Kidani Village, we did a 2-bedroom.
Outstanding. I just scored a 2-bedroom at the Riviera during this little break here. We talking about the 7-month window for our June trip. We split our trip between Bay Lake and Riviera, so we're excited.
Riviera is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it is very nice, and that the aesthetic of having the other resorts around it, and then also the Skyliner, like it's one of the best visuals where you're just kind of hanging out at the pool and looking around. Obviously being at a Savannah is a very great visual, so you can't beat that as well. But I did like the visual of just people coming and going, and the Skyliner and the other resorts. So it's a nice place to stay.
So you're thinking you like the Kidani better than the Lodge?
Yeah, personally, I do. I like the Kidani Village better than the Lodge for sure.
What is it about the Kidani area? It's to me, it's kind of secluded. That's for sure. It's out there. You feel lonely.
It is out there, but I mean, we didn't feel lonely at once this trip. We went with with so many people. So, but like I said, I really like the pool, and the pool was active. The water slide, the play area, the lobby isn't as big. So, for Christmas time, you definitely miss that, and you miss, the tree isn't as big, but there's still dining there. There's a little shop, and, I stayed at the Wilderness Lodge before as well. So those big booming lobbies, there's nothing like entering those, like your first day of the trip. And then when you're going there for Christmas, seeing those giant trees and the way they're decorated. So it does lack that lobby, but everything else is just as enjoyable. And then the pool is, I think, better than the Jumbo House. So that's what kind of puts it over the top.
Well, let's get into some food. How you said you had food out there in Kidani? I'm not sure. What's your options for food out there?
So we went to the Sanaa, and we went there for breakfast. So that's basically all we ate at the Kidani. I enjoyed it. So we have a gluten allergy, every one of us. So I told you I had my stomach issue. So my wife, she's gluten allergy, and then the kids, just because what happened to me, I have them avoid gluten just to kind of, I don't want them to get sick like I did. So when we went there, they always get the Mickey waffles, right? But when you go there, it's Simba waffles, at least right now. So the 2 breakfasts we did there, they got the Simba waffles. But I got the Eggs Benedict, which was 2 poached eggs, Canadian bacon, spice, hollandaise, and arugula over gluten-free Simba waffles. And those were very good. Usually, like when we stay at a resort with a kitchen, we order the groceries, and I like to make our breakfasts because I feel like I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I can make breakfast, everybody can get ready, and then we can eat, and then we can leave. I try to save some time, but at this resort, we weren't really able to do Sanaa for dinner, so I made sure we did a few breakfasts there. My wife got what's called a methi paratha sandwich. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's a vegetarian, but she'll eat eggs, some other stuff that I can't pronounce, and but it was on some gluten-free bread. So that and then also down there, it's like downstairs, and it's out overlooking. So I have a few great pictures of us eating breakfast. My kids had their Mickey ears on when we checked in, and we're eating breakfast and we're looking out at the animals. It was real cool.
Outstanding. Yeah, how was the transportation from Kidani? Was it?
It wasn't terrible. So so we also ate at the resort at the Jumbo House, which is Boma. So we ate at Boma, and I ate at the Mara. So the reason I bring that up is the Mara, you had that quick shuttle to the Jumbo House, and it wasn't terrible. Like, it comes like every 5 minutes. So the transportation, if you needed to go over to the other resort, was very convenient. And then also, as far as the buses go, it seemed normal. Like other, I've stayed at the Port Orleans. That one I felt like was the longest, the Port Orleans Riverside with, kind of all the other stops. So compared to the other places I've stayed, we didn't have the Skyliner. So I was a little spoiled staying at the Riviera with the Skyliner. And with that, to me, was like a ride on its own. Well, the first night we got to the Riviera, and we just rode the Skyliner just for fun. Everybody got on there, and so here you didn't have that, but the buses weren't terrible. I mean, obviously, Animal Kingdom, the park, is right there, and that we love that park. So that day it was really quick, but the other parks, the ride there in the morning wasn't terrible, but the ride back, when you're kind of a little tired or a little hungry, and you're carrying more stuff than you left with, it gets a little tiring, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it's a little more out there than the other resorts. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous, very unique, right? Place to stay. Yeah.
Having the animals and the different experiences, like I mentioned with the pool, like their pool bar. I have it written down somewhere what it's called. I'll have to. Oh, the Maji Pool Bar. It's also, they have like its own little savannah behind it with different animals. So the animals you see in the main savannah, there's different ones by the pool bar. And I had a really cool experience talking with the cast member, when we checked in, and like I like those moments kind of where you slow down, you could take in where you are. And just sitting, talking about the different animals that were over there. It was a cool experience.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about the cool dining experiences you had. And what were some of your favorites? I see you got one here at Universal even.
So Antojitos is a Mexican restaurant at City Walk. So City Walk is like their version of Disney Springs, if you're not familiar. Yep. And their layout, everything is kind of in a big circle. It's actually, if you're familiar with Disneyland, it's more like Disneyland's layout than it is like Disney World's. So Antojitos is on City Walk, and we try to go there every year. We're big fans of Mexican food, and we have a gluten allergy, so a lot of stuff there is corn. So it's like naturally like good for us. We can kind of look at the menu. And on the other hand, though, Disney World, like we love going to Disney World because they are very accommodating. Like we have an allergy, and I always eat like a king when I'm on property. So, but anyway, at Antojitos, they have a cart that comes out, and if you order guacamole, and they'll make the guacamole right in front of you, and we love that. And it's awesome. It's fresh. We sat, so there's 2 floors, and they had like a mariachi band, and they were playing Christmas music on stage, and the food was great. We did that our first night, so that was like the night we got in. We spent some time at the pool, and then we headed over to City Walk. We took the bus, and this was some people who on the trip, it was their first time kind of seeing that whole layout and how close everything was and how bright everything was. We walked to the restaurant, we sat down, we had a really good meal. And my kids, they get the basic like quesadillas. My kids don't go crazy. So even we go every year, we also go to San Angel Inn. That's one of our favorites at Epcot. So we do a lot of Mexican food. And even at there, they get the quesadillas. But, I got enchiladas, and the food there was great. The atmosphere is great. I really recommend it.
Have you ever done the La Hacienda at the Mexican Pavilion?
Yes. And then the reason I did that was because I made a mistake, and I thought that it was San Angel Inn, but you know what I mean? Because it's Hacienda San Angel, right? So it's kind of got like the same name in it. Yeah. So I made a mistake, or whatever it's called, and being able to see the boat from the Three Caballeros ride by, and it's a little dim in there. So I like that atmosphere, but the Hacienda was awesome.
Yeah,
we went there. I really liked it.
Awesome. I like this one on your. I was reading ahead because there's some that I really enjoy. I like to hear it when listeners enjoy it too. But you got about 6 bullet points for the Regal Eagle, and I think it was your first time there, right?
Yeah. So the reason I put all these notes is because some of the people who come on your podcast are very impressive. Like their stories are outstanding. So
I know
like
it's true.
Yeah. So I'm a listener through and through, and I've been trying to come on this thing, but I'm also, I don't want to let people down. I feel like the standards have been set high, so I've been putting a lot of time into these notes. So the Regal Eagle, we were originally supposed to go to the Italian restaurant in the Epcot Pavilion, but we came from the Portofino at Universal, so we had our fill. They have this place called Mama Della's there, right at the Portofino. It's a great, you kind of feel like you're in an old Italian kitchen in somebody's house. It's a cool setting, and the food was great. And we had 8 set for the reservation for the Italian Pavilion. I don't know. It's not Via Napoli. Is it Via Napoli?
Yeah.
I can't. Okay, it is Via Napoli. So that's what we were set for, and I couldn't get anybody else. And at this point, so the first night at Epcot, all 16 of us didn't come. My parents and my sister had checked in, so there were only 13 of us. And I say only in quotation marks because that's still a lot. I couldn't get more than 8 there. So we wanted to go to a quick service where we could all be there. It's our first night together, sit down and eat. I'd never been to the Regal Eagle. I've heard you talk about it, and I also watched that thing on Disney Plus where they I forget which of the shows, maybe it was Behind the Magic. They did like a thing on the Regal Eagle, how it was built, and they talked about the chefs and the different barbecue sauces and the taste testing, and I was very interested. Now I'm a big barbecue guy, and being from New York, we don't have a lot of great barbecue restaurants. So we went there, and we were able to get, like, they had the picnic benches inside, because it was night. It was not cold, but it was I wanted to eat inside. So we were able to go in, set up. We all, we got a big picnic bench. We put a few in there, and, we went up and we ordered, and the dining was great. I got the North Carolina chopped smoked pork butt platter, and they threw it on some gluten-free toast. And the only complaint, I'm like a sweet coleslaw guy, so I like to throw some sweet coleslaw on top of the barbecue. And their coleslaw was more of like a tangy, mellow coleslaw. So, but everything else, like a lot of people. So the one family we stayed with, Kim and Judah, they're from like Floribama. They're from the Panhandle, so they're and they loved the barbecue. So they gave Southerners 2 thumbs up, and I gave it 2 thumbs up. And I like, so the 2 sauces I recommend, because they have 4, I believe, were the vinegar based and the sweet barbecue. I used them all. I used all 4. I managed to, but those 2 were my favorite.
Well done. I think you're doing great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I need that self-esteem boost.
Well, now another one, because you're at the Animal Kingdom, the Boma. What'd you think of Boma?
I loved it. So Boma, it was my sister's birthday, December 17th. So we wanted to do like a dinner for everybody. And again, this was one where we had, I want to say 12 when we booked. So I was nervous, everyone wanted to go. This was the second night. So I was nervous we wouldn't be able to get all 16, but they were very accommodating. So we ended up getting like a small table not small. Right. We split into 2 groups, 8 and 8, and we were very close to each other. So that was cool, because kind of all day when you're planning for a big group, you're always thinking a step ahead. Right. You want to make sure everybody's set up. So I was kind of worrying about that, and that worked out. As far as, the buffet, the food was great. My favorite, I chicken chowder. I had like 3 bowls of it, and I liked it so much. I'm telling you, I finished the bowl, and I was talking I finished the whatever it's in, right, the big tub of it, and someone was behind me from my party who hadn't been able to try it, and they didn't get to try it because I scooped it all out and I finished. But that was great, the chicken chowder. And the gluten-free zebra domes. So I had mentioned, on your show, you always talk about, I think it's elephant poop in the zebra domes, right? Is that what it is? Or it comes from elephant poop? I don't know. I've heard it on the show before. And they go ahead. I'm sorry.
Elephant poop maybe is gluten-free, so that's probably still fits.
Yeah. So the server did not get it. The server wasn't on board with that joke, but it was fine. They were gluten-free zebra domes. And my daughter, I'm telling you, my daughter was going to bed just telling me and my wife, like, she's like, I cannot stop thinking about those zebra domes. So I was able to get them from the Mara. Like one of our last nights, I went over there by myself and they had them there. So I was able to bring some back for her. She loved them.
That's like the joke I used to introduce my daughter, Lindsay. That was one of her fun Walt Disney World facts, that she put $100 bill on my Jumbo House, bill, because all the zebra domes she ate that week.
It's a lot. $100. I mean, that you get your fill. You can't leave. You're not leaving Disney World saying you didn't have enough zebra domes.
I was exaggerating, I think, but yes.
Well, we'll never know.
So you ate all the chicken chowder on everybody, and
yeah.
But that's a great place for a large party like yours too, though. That was a good choice. Convenient too, because you're staying there.
So the convenience was the first thing, and I also know I've stayed at the Jumbo House before, and it's a nice restaurant, and I also like Sanaa. Like we've eaten dinner there before. We just didn't eat there this trip, but Boma, it's a very nice. The food is great, and like you said, it's a big dining hall, and it was nice having like the first full night, everybody being able to sit down together and eat their fill, and there were tons of different options, so everybody was happy.
Then night 3, what made you pick Skipper Canteen over at Magic Kingdom?
So we were originally scheduled to go to the Diamond Horseshoe, which I have never eaten at before. So it was very hard getting dining reservations on this trip, like very hard. There wasn't much available. And the system's kind of changed over time with COVID and, with the lack of a dining plan and, the dates that you can start booking your dining. So everything was a little different. And there was stuff available, but now as far as the Diamond Horseshoe, I'd never eaten there. And we had, I had barbecue prior, and my wife's not a big meat eater. She doesn't eat. By not a big meat eater, I also mean not a meat eater at all. She's a vegetarian, and it didn't look like there were great options for her. I had always wanted to eat at the Skipper Canteen, and it's never worked out. I've heard like good reviews. It's to me, it's never one that's talked about a lot. But when I do hear people talk about it, like even online, like I'll look up reviews. I've heard good things about it. And it was a long night. We were all together. And at some point I was like, all right, we don't want to eat at the Diamond Horseshoe. I'm going to cancel that. But I also don't want to split up and everybody go our separate ways and, maybe try to go back to the resort and try to eat, because it's a long trip. And late at night, we haven't been fed. You're trying to avoid everybody being like hangry, like hungry and kind of fed up. So we were over in that area of the park, and I kind of just went up to them. We had a ride we were about to go on, and they were about to go on Pirates. So I knew we had some downtime, and I was like, hey, is there any chance you could fit 16 of us? And they were like, I don't think so. And I was like, what about, parties of 4? And they were able to put together 4 parties of 4, which actually ended up being great because so we went on the ride, and I had to go return something at a store. So I did some shopping while my family went on. So we went on Pirates, and then they went into the Tiki Room, and I went and returned some stuff, and then we all met back here. And what was really cool about it, like just the aesthetic, we were all in like the main dining hall, and we were kind of close to each other in like pods of 4. So we went from being a huge group. It was nice because I kind of walked around from table to table, and there were like little conversations going on, and like my parents and my wife's parents were together, and like it was a very cool kind of setting. It kind of changed the vibe for a little bit. It got a little more intimate, so I did like that. And then as far as the food goes, they brought out this Brazilian cheese bread. I don't know what it's called because I didn't even see it on the menu. And so we told them we had a gluten allergy, and they were like, oh, it's gluten free. We doubted it. It was like these little cheese breads, like individual. It was like chewy and tasty, like the Brazilian cheese bread. Find out what it's called, order it. Absolutely phenomenal. And then I got it tastes like chicken because it is. And that was gluten-free as well. And it was fried chicken. And like I don't get to eat that. And it tasted exactly like what I remember fried chicken tasting like. But the best part about it had like this sweet chili glaze. So I'm a dipper. I'm a condiment guy. As you could tell, when I talked about the Regal Eagle, I had all the barbecue sauces and I used them all. I had the sweet chili glaze, and I was just dipping the taste like chicken because it is the whole time. It was awesome.
Well done. I like it. Great explanations there. And I'm going to go into night 4. Looks like you were chilling at the resort. You tried a little bit of the quick service Mara.
Yeah, so we didn't schedule any rest days this trip. So we did 7 parks. But we did a park every day. So we did, Islands of Adventure and Universal the first day, Islands of Adventure and Universal the second day. And then when we got to Disney, the first night Epcot, and then Magic Kingdom, and then Hollywood Studios. And then we did Animal Kingdom. And the day we did Animal Kingdom, the Kali River Rapids were down. We're a big River Rapid family. My kids love it. So kind of shortened the time. We felt like we needed to stay at Animal Kingdom. We went really early. And I also wanted to have the experience of kind of having a day off, even though we didn't have it. So I figured, if we get back at like 2 or 3 and then we go to the pool, we could kind of get that vibe,
Yeah.
So we didn't have really any dinner plans. We went back to the pool. We were hoping that we could go to Sanaa for dinner, and it was completely booked. So we kind of split up around like 7, and we had some food at the resort because we had the kitchen and we had ordered the groceries, like I had mentioned, but I still wanted to eat, eat out. So I found out that the shuttle came, and then I looked at the quick service menu at the Mara. So I took the shuttle over myself. I got a gluten-free cheeseburger. I got a gluten-free flatbread, and the flatbread was a legitimate. It wasn't up here where I eat. If I go to eat gluten-free pizza, I'm getting the same crust everywhere. It's like a thin kind of rice crust, and they had like a full flatbread. It was soft and doughy. So that was awesome. I kind of cheated. I ate a little bit of gluten because I got this ice cream sandwich with it was like a peppermint ice cream sandwich in the it was like a Christmas thing. It was in the refrigerator. I forget what it was called, and I'm disappointed that I don't remember, but it was awesome. It had like the icing, and it had like green icing on the outside. So I had an experience with a cast member. She was like, "Oh, I've really been wanting to try that. So you got to let me know how it is." So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna give it a try." And I tried it out. It was awesome. So the burger was good. The flatbread bread was good. And then the little treats in the refrigerator, the one that I got was very good.
Well done. Yes, a nice pool afternoon, especially at a gorgeous resort like that. You got to do that. Good play there.
Yeah. Also, I went to the bar. We don't drink, but I got this. What is it called? It was like a raspberry puree blended with, it was a lava smoothie.
Yeah.
So that was like my drink. That was awesome. I don't get frozen drinks ever. It was raspberry puree with coconut and pineapple.
Yeah.
So I drank one of those at the pool, and it was very good.
That is one of my favorite drinks, the cool lava. Yeah, there is the alcohol version. It's very sweet. That's for sure.
Oh man, It was. The coconut was awesome. It was refreshing.
Outstanding. All right. One last, you said this is one that you do every trip, which is interesting. This is one I do get mixed reviews. I had kind of one of the worst steaks I ever had on property one time. So I'm glad to see that you do have a good experience. Sounds like every time you go, the San Angel Inn.
So this one wasn't my best dining wise. And I think it was my fault because I went with the tacos. Tacos are great, but I feel like if going to a Mexican restaurant, I want to get a platter or a plate. And I was kind of too hungry when I got here, and I kind of was undecided between a few different things. But the reason we go to this one is the setting. The food is good. It's convenient. We don't eat gluten. So a lot of things are allergy friendly. We like the Three Caballeros. So it's more so the atmosphere,
Uh-huh. Yep.
But we do like the food as well. I got this thing called the queso fundido. It's like melted Monterey Jack cheese with chorizo and poblano peppers. And we were stuffing our face with that. Everybody. So this was the last night. And again, we didn't have a dining reservation, and I was able to get one. So I wasn't able to get all 16 of us, but about 12 of us were able to sit down our last night. We were able to be together. It was a big table. So that was very cool. I got the tacos de ribeye. And the ribeye, it tasted like just burger meat. You know what I mean? So that was a little disappointing. But again, I had other options, and I just kind of last second was like, all right, I'm just going to get the tacos. I felt like I couldn't go wrong with them. And I kind of wish I would have went a little more bold and got something a little different.
All right. Good enough. Well, good job with the dining. Especially with a big crowd like that. And next question, John, is we already kind of covered some of the things you did for the first time, but I'm really interested in, a lot of our listeners are interested in the Genie Plus experience. Can you give us the rundown on how that worked out for you?
All right. So I'm like a resistant to change. I don't know how many people out there are. And I like the original system, and I like the way it was with fast passes. And I had my kind of system where I wouldn't book things back to back to back. I like to spread things out, like do something in the morning, something in the afternoon, something at night, because I like to go to an area of the park and be present and be there, take it all in. Like I don't like the rushing around aspect. So I was definitely a little nervous how this was going to work out. I didn't want it to kind of change the vibe of our trip.
Yeah.
And we only did Genie Plus at Magic Kingdom because I had read reviews that it wasn't necessarily necessary at the other parks, and it wasn't. At Epcot, we were able to get on Soarin', like everything we wanted to do. Mission Space was like a 5-minute line. So everywhere else was, but at Magic Kingdom, what I liked about it was, a lot of stuff was available. And what I learned was, so we booked so I booked at 7 a.m. and I think my first attraction was Peter Pan. I figured that's the longest wait. If we don't do it, we either gonna have to run to it or we're just gonna have to wait a really long time. So I booked that first. And as we were going there, it was like 9:30 and it had been 2 hours. And my wife's sister was like, "Oh, I did some kind of, can book your next, I guess it's Lightning Lane reservation, whatever your next ride reservation, 2 hours after booking your first, even if you haven't gone on the ride." Okay. So that was cool. So we were kind of able to get ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. So I was constantly waiting 2 hours and it really helped with the flow. So, we went from Peter Pan and then we waited on Small World. And then our next reservation was for Haunted Mansion. So, and then we were able to do one for Splash Mountain and we waited on Thunder Mountain Railroad. So it was convenient. We were able to I have a good idea of how the park is laid out. So, it was convenient, and I was able to get more than just the 3. Cause I know when the original, like the fast pass system, once you're done with the 3, you could start getting more, one at a time.
Right.
I didn't really use that because like I said, I didn't want the feeling of rushing. So with this, I didn't get that feeling like I was rushing from one thing to other. I was able to plan out, all right, this is the area of the park I'm going to be in 2 hours. Let's book that up. And then I can go ahead and ride something else. So that was convenient. And then the Lightning Lane Plus, so the individual rides that were kind of on the next tier, we used that for Rise of the Resistance. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that was a little frustrating about that was the people who were on property, the people who were off property, I wasn't able to book theirs. So, I know this was an experience I wanted everybody to do. And I was able to do the 12 that were on property, but not the 4 that weren't. And then I'm anxious. Am I going to be able to get them on? And I talked to a cast member at the resort and they were like, when you go to the park, just let them know your situation. They might be able to help you out. And I wasn't expecting to get anything for free. I was going to pay for it. I wanted to say, hey, I was able to get these 12. So I went to Hollywood Studios. Hey, I was able to get these 12, these 4, I want to add them. They're just staying on property. I want to know if you could help me. And they just added them for free. So I was able to get 16 people on Rise of the Resistance. Yeah. And then I used the Lightning Lane Plus. So that was the one time I did it for Rise of the Resistance. And then the last night I did it for Remy's. And we did it later in the day. So I didn't need to worry about all that. I was able to book it and we got right on. And, now as far as the fees go, I wasn't happy paying because with 16 people, $12 a person, $15 a person adds up. It was like a whole nother park ticket, but I was happy with the convenience of getting on there.
Nice. And yeah, overall with the Magic Kingdom experience, with the Genie Plus, did you feel like you really saved your time waiting in lines?
Yeah, I feel like it was last year when we went, it was the middle of COVID. The lines were still kind of long because everything was spread out. So this year, I don't know if so everything looked longer last year because the lines, I don't know if you were there,
yes,
but the lines just looked so long. So I don't know if it felt shorter because just the aesthetic, like looking at it, it looked shorter,
True.
but it definitely felt like my day. We were able to do everything we wanted at Magic Kingdom. We like, and it was pretty packed. So I definitely think Genie Plus helped.
One of the questions, the great job on that. Great. I'm loving all the different perspectives that we're getting on this new system. And I think everyone, I'm hearing a pattern, like you said, you don't always have to use it for every park, and definitely taking advantage of those big rides like the Rise of Resistance, Flight of Passage, Remy's.
I feel like you have to, like, if you, that's what kind of stinks. Like if you want to do it, it's, I guess you could wait online, which is nice now, where like at Universal, you don't have to pay extra for Hagrid's, but you do have to wait online. So I'm willing to wait that hour, an hour and 20 minutes. So Rise of the Resistance, you can do that. So I guess you necessarily don't have to pay for it, but you are missing out a little bit on the experience everyone else is getting if you don't, and that kind of stinks.
Even when you rope drop it, I mean, you got to be like the first one in the park to rope drop those rides and Flight of Passage too. So good. Yeah, Remy's you could get. I had someone say they did the boarding pass, at the 7 a.m. booking, and then they also bought and I thought that was a pretty good, this was Cousin Heather I just interviewed this week, and she said, I thought that was a great idea because the second time around for that ride is, to me, kind of important because there's so much going on. It's like you really
I liked Remy's.
Yeah.
I liked it. I had heard, we had friends who went prior, like a few months before us, and they were saying it was okay. So our expectations weren't too high. So Remy's I really liked, and last year I did Mickey and Minnie's for the first time. So this year I missed out on it because everyone went on that while I was trying to set up getting them on Rise. Oh, and I was upset because I liked the Great Movie Ride. I loved it, So when they were changing it, and then the new cartoon style of Mickey and Minnie's, I didn't think I'd enjoy it. So I went in there with low expectations. Mickey and Minnie's is awesome. Like that part where you go into the water, the water area. So you go into the individual room and then there's the water around you. Like that was such a cool experience. Cause I mentioned earlier, I watched the ride videos from some of the parks all over the world and some of the new technology. So seeing them bring the technology from those rides here, like that was very cool. And then they did some of that same stuff in Remy. So I was very pleased with that ride. I enjoyed it.
Good job. And did you splurge on anything? I see maybe a little bit of no merchandise. What'd you do?
So I didn't really get a chance to shop. So I'm actually, we booked a random trip in March. So I'm happy about that. And we're going with a much smaller group. There's just going to be 7 of us this time. So I'm looking forward to going back. And there are things that I saw that I wanted to buy. Like there was a wall calendar for the 50th that I thought was really cool, and I just didn't buy it. But I splurged on the Genie Plus. That was for 16, and then the Lightning Lane Plus, that felt like a splurge. But we got pins, and I got a hat. So I have a funny story. I went to Disney World for the 30th when I was probably 13 or 14. So I have a hat that says like happy birthday 30th on it, 30th anniversary on the back. And my father found it, over the summer and gave it to me. So my son wore it. My son usually wears these Wally ears that I think are very cool because I don't see them often in the park. They have his like eyes up at the top. So that's his go-to every trip. But this year he put that down and he put on the 30th anniversary hat. So I wanted to get a 50th, and I really couldn't find any merchandise that said 50th on it anywhere. Yeah. And my sister and my parents went to Disney Springs and they got a hat. So now I got a new 50th anniversary hat. So actually, one thing, I'm a big fan of Mr. Totes. I remember, when I was a kid, that was my favorite ride. And I got a little like a figurine. So, that was a little bit of a splurge. But I think when we go back in March, I'll get some flower and garden merchandise, and I'll probably get some 50th merch that I wasn't able to get this trip.
Nice. Well, any stories, any good moments, anything that you look back on or like, that was really cool with this big crew?
One of the special moments from this was the surprise, at Universal, kind of the extension of the stay. But another thing at Universal, I don't know if this falls under pixie dust, and they'll definitely tell you it doesn't fall under pixie dust. That was part of the joke. There's this thing called the horror makeup show. It sounds scary, but it's actually very funny. And I like, it was an experience kind of similar to the experience of, being, it's going to sound weird saying this. So being at the Savannah with a cast member, my first day, just kind of chilling, listening to somebody talk. I like those experiences. And here, sitting, we don't do a lot of shows, sitting down at a show, taking some time, listening to people talk and that are passionate about what they're talking about. And they're talking about, how makeup is done in Hollywood for classic horror films and new horror films. And then there was, one of the girls on the trip, she was having kind of a rough day because roller coasters and stuff aren't really her speed. So her day was kind of going south. And we sat down and there was just an experience where there was something behind a curtain. And there were two people on stage, talking, and they were, joking back and forth, and it was their show. And there was something behind stage that one of the guys said he's going to show us at the end. And he didn't want the other guy on stage to touch it. Don't touch it. And there was a moment, the guy snuck and touched it, and an alarm went off. And he was like, hey, man, don't go back there. And he's like, oh, I didn't do it. And he's like, then who did it? And he pointed to her. Her name's Luna. He's like, Luna did it. And he's like, no way. And so it was really funny. It kind of brought her out of her shell. So that was a very cool experience. And the other pixie dust moment was, like I said, I wasn't trying to get anything free. I was just trying to get them to add the 4 Rise of the Resistance passes. And then the cast member just throwing them on, that was very cool. It helped, ease some of the stress I was having trying to organize everything and getting everybody together. So that was a good moment.
So yeah, if you did this again with this many people, did you learn anything from having so many people? Would you break them up, or would you try to do it the same way you did it?
So I would definitely tell everybody, stay on property. Because like I said, so prior to the trip, I had made sure we were all linked on my Disney experience so that I can control everybody. Yeah. So it's still, even though I could control everybody's plans and make sure we were all set up, because that, if we weren't all set up, it would have been super confusing. We would have had to get together the night before and said, all right, this is what we're going to hit in the morning. And then I'd have to hope that if I booked it, they booked it at the same time. So definitely don't do that. Make sure there's one person in the My Disney experience if you want to get on the same stuff. If you want to split up, that's fine. But if you're trying to get everybody on the same thing, make sure there's one driver, and then everybody else is on the bus. But I'd make sure we're all on property together so we could really hit that 7 a.m. window. Having the 2 separate times to start booking your reservations was definitely like a hurdle we had to jump over.
One of the questions I have here is, what's something you like to do every trip? And you got pins. Are you a pin trader?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We do pins, like me and my kid. I'm a collector. I don't know if you can see the room behind me. I got all sorts of stuff, like football stuff and Disney stuff. I got my Disney ears over there. So, I have 2 lanyards. My son's got 2 lanyards. My daughter just bought her second lanyard. And what I like to do is I buy a popcorn bucket. So I have 2 now, one from Christmas from our first trip back in like 2012, where I put like my limited pins, the ones I don't want to put on my lanyard. And then I bought a 50th popcorn bucket for, more limited pins. So I've got a few Christmas ones, and I like to collect the different seasons. So I try to we go a lot for Christmas. We've gone for Halloween. We've gone for Flower and Garden. So I like to, go for different times of the year so I could collect the different pins from the different times of the year. And I've had friends who've gone, at times that I haven't been there. So I got like some limited pins from, Halloween 2018 and I wasn't there, or Flower and Garden 2015. So, and usually I collect coffee mugs, but my wife kind of put a kibosh on that because we have a cabinet full of Disney coffee mugs, and they're big, and I don't mind, drinking a big cup of coffee, but it's hard to fit in there. So my wife, we have a set of coffee mugs, and maybe that's what normal people do. So we had a set of 10, and I'm so I didn't buy any this year, but when I go back in March, I might do that. Also, another thing is magnets. My fridge is full of magnets. So those are the 3 things I like to collect.
You just sound like a geek to me. It's like you just described 95% of our audience.
Yeah,
that's me, man, through and through.
Well, I got to finish up with a couple tips. You already gave us a bunch of tips, but being a planner that you are, anything else you could recommend to the audience?
Oh, man, I would just, as far as tip, like I've said this prior, on this show, be present, allow yourself to be present, especially if it's your first trip, have must-dos, but be flexible and try to spread things out. so that you're not, unless you're a go. If you're a person who really wants to squeeze all the juice out of the fruit, that's fine. Do your thing. But I plan for people, and they're very anxious, especially Disney's changing the system and this, that, and the other. And they want to have a good time. And the first thing I tell them is, you're going to have a good time. So relax in general. Yeah. You're going to Disney World. Yeah. You're going to have a great time. So try not to be anxious leading up to the trip, because it's not worth it. You don't get that time back. Try to enjoy it. Listen to Kurt's podcast, and so enjoy the time leading up to the trip. Don't be too anxious. And then when you're on property, be present. Even if you're with a large group, take pictures. Sit down when you can. Try to take it all in, because it goes fast. Yeah. And I found that this trip felt like it went the fastest of any trip. And that kind of, that there's the sting when you leave Disney, there's that sting. And because I'm a countdown person. I start to count down at 100 days. You know what I mean? We have a chalkboard in our kitchen. Luckily, it's down to 79 again. Usually it's 365 after our trip, but we're doing a second one this year. It stings. And this trip went so much faster because I was constantly on the go, constantly planning. And I wouldn't give back any of that, because everybody had a good time, and I'm glad they did. Try to allow yourself to take in where you are, enjoy where you are, and be present, because it flies by.
So true. It's triple time at Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell from all you packed in here. And one last question is, what's that one moment that's going to stay with you from this trip?
I like to let my inner kid out, and it's usually we're goofing off. I play some pranks, and they're funny pranks, and so I play pranks on family members and friends while we're on property, and I set things up, and I cut loose with the kids. And this trip, it might sound funny because you pay so much money to be in the park and ride the rides and do that stuff, but like I said, that stuff flies by. So what's really gonna stick with me is the moments in the pool, riding the slide with my son and my daughter, and playing Marco Polo with my kids and our friends' kids. So it's the time where we kind of just chilled, and we were playing together and cutting loose, and showing the kids, being one with them rather than, just their father, hopefully creating good memories for them,
So true. So true. It's all of this bling of this extra sensory that is Disney World and even Universal. But isn't it interesting, those moments with your family that you don't get at home because we're running in so many different directions is so important.
Yeah.
And so that's so great that you recognize that, and so true. And John, I'm so glad we finally got you on the podcast. I was a guest on your podcast. We kind of alluded to it, but tell everybody your podcast and what you do. And it's one of our favorite things. You actually inspired us to do our own fantasy football league for the geeks this year. We had a 10. I lost in the playoffs. I told you we had this before we started recording. It hurts. I'm all done now, but tell everybody your podcast.
Well, I told you might be back. We got a playoff thing going on. So you talked to me afterwards, but yeah, briefly. So I have a website called toiletstotitles.com, and it's called Toilets to Titles because the last place game is usually called the Toilet Bowl. First place is the Super Bowl, and when you have the two last place teams play, it's like a joke, the Toilet Bowl. So we call Toilets to Titles. So we're hopefully helping listeners go from the bottom, to the top. And we have a podcast we record every Tuesday night in season, just talking about fantasy football. And we started we're going into our third off season. So we started, over 2 years ago, and it was just one show. And now your friend Joe, he's writing for my website now. We actually have a podcast together. So we kind of went from covering one aspect of fantasy football. And like Disney, there's a rabbit hole. Once you really get into it, there's so many different aspects. There's daily fantasy, there's college fantasy, there's long term. So we touch on all of that. And again, it's called toiletstotitles.com. If you're interested, you can go to YouTube, check us out, Toilets to Titles, and subscribe. And we go live a lot, and we really like when we go live, having people in the chat. So we go live Sunday mornings as well, leading up to the games, and we'll answer people's questions on air, from 10:30 till the start of kickoff, because that's usually everyone's trying to make those start-sit decisions, right away. So we enjoy interacting with the listener.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. A friend of mine from work who taught me fantasy football, and I got all his advice when I was starting out about 5 years ago. And I'm so really cool that you picked him up, and you guys, he's full of knowledge and he's full of energy and he's a lot of fun. So I'm so glad you guys connected. I love the connections made through the podcasting, and thanks for coming on the show. I hope you stay in touch, and I hope you have a great March trip too.
Thanks, man. This was like a goal of mine for the longest time coming on. That's why I threw all these notes in here, because the people who come on, like some of your guests, man, like they are professional. Like they can recap and this trip I was nervous because I was constantly going, that I was really, so I had to go through and look at my pictures and stuff to kind of, because it was a blur. It was absolutely a blur doing all this stuff with all those people. So hopefully I was clear and everybody kind of got a good picture, but I do appreciate you bringing me on.
It's pretty interesting. You'd think I prepare and I pick these people, and it's totally just random, the folks that come, but the quality of the people and their knowledge and their enthusiasm for the topic is just amazing. It's nothing I'm doing. It's all on them.
There was a guy who came on, I forget his name, like last year. He's a runner. He's a big runner. And I ended up friending him just because, I think his name's Ben. I don't know, but so Ben Kennedy.
Yes.
Man, great guy. Was great. So I'm not nothing. Everybody was great. I listened to an episode yesterday, so everybody crushes it. But I really liked his insight. So there's tons of people on. Yeah, I love your episodes, man. You do great work.
Thanks so much, and you did a great job. And we'll be talking to you. Have a great new year. All right.
All right. Thanks, Kurt. You too.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
All right. Thanks, John, for coming on the show. I'm glad I finally got you on the show from your December trip. And thanks to Jeff Opolka. That's a intro he did at least a year ago. Multi-talented guy, Jeff. Good friend of the show. Been to all of my geek meets, the Grand Geek and Gathering, all three of them, and then previous geek meets. Jeff saw him down there at the Grand Geek and Gathering recently. Shout out to Jeff Opolka for a great intro, and I'd love to have some more of those intros. We got a few coming that were recorded down at the G3, but you can send them in to me. I love getting those. If you're wondering how to do it, just record it into a phone, a video, anyway. You can message them to me through Facebook. You can email them to me at kurt.stone@geekinonwdw.com. I can suggest just tell us your name, where you're from, a fun Disney World fact about yourself, or a couple of those, and that you go geeking on Walt Disney World with Curtis and the whole Geekin' family. Email them to me and I'll get them on the show. You'll be able to hear yourself on the radio. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters. Patreon.com is where you can pledge a monthly donation to the show. There's even an option to do annual donation. Got 65 geeks supporting me out there. I'd love for you to join them also. And then when you do, you'll get some bonus podcast episodes, especially now. Got some cool ones coming out. Live recordings that I did down in the parks. I also put out the Zoom call every Wednesday. There was a fun one on Friday that I got out to the Patreon supporters. Those are bonus episodes. If you'd like to hear those recordings that I've already done and the ones that are coming up, those coffee walks, I'm telling you about my trip. You'll get a head start on my trip report from my G3 experience. Got one coming out this week. It will be the first couple coffee walks, and always get great feedback on those. So if you'd like to be a part of those, check out patreon.com. Look for Geekin' on WDW. And thank you to all the Patreon supporters that support me in the show. And as always, thanks for keeping Mom and Judy busy with the traveling agency, travelingtiaras@gmail.com. They'll get you a quote. Lots of people are wanting to get back to the parks. I can tell you, it was crowded when I was down there in February. That never used to be the case years ago. But yeah, I think people are clamoring to get back to Disney World. And you can do it. You know, we just had a big group down there, 100 geeks, and we're hearing good reports. Everyone was safe, and that is awesome. So start booking your trips down to Disney World. Don't wait, because I'm telling you, the resorts are packed. Mom's having a hard time finding rooms for some people if they want to go in the near future. But get a head start on it. Email travelingtiaras@gmail.com. And a couple announcements. I am going back to Disney World our good friends, Auntie Judy and Uncle Ken there, they have a 50th anniversary coming up in June. We're going to be there June 4th through the 13th. So if you're going to be there, message me. Let me know you're going to be down there. I'll definitely get together and say hi if we can. And I just saw Herman Herbert's, one of Mom's favorite bands, is playing the Garden Rocks concert series, June 10th through the 13th. That's exciting. I'm excited about that. We're going to be staying at Bay Lake Tower and Riviera. So I'm getting back there pretty soon. It's always great to have another trip booked. I'm also going to be in New York City with my daughter Lindsay, March 25th, that weekend. We're going to do a Broadway show, Aladdin. And I'm also doing Phantom of the Opera with my daughter Lindsay, but I got a couple geeks going with me. Wendy and Samantha are going to be there, cousin Heather. So excited. Got 5 of us all booked there. So if you're going to be in New York City and you want to check out that Aladdin show, 8 p.m. on, I think it's the 26th, March 26th, 8 p.m. we're going to that show. So if you're interested, let me know about that. Love to see you guys. You know, we are committed to helping you enjoy Disney World vacations. Just reach out to me. If you'd like to book a trip, reach out to Mom or Judy. We'll always help you review those plans for your trip. And thanks for going geeking on Walt Disney World with us. We really appreciate you listening and geeking with us every single day. We love you, geeks. Have a magical day, and I hope all your dreams come true.